Okay, here we are. Welcome to Feeding the Family. I'm your host, Jill Troderman. Still getting myself acclimated, folks, so please forgive that small technical delay. So today I have in the studio with me Christie Hernandez, and we are talking about, is IV nutrient therapy the ultimate health hack or hoax? Can you inject your way to health? Are people moving away from popping pills like all the multivitamins and power shakes and moving towards using IV or intravenous injectables? Today we have Christie Hernandez. Let me tell you a little bit about Christie. With a diverse background in integrative medicine and a drive to make a difference in our healthcare system from a young age, Christie quickly became a pioneering integrative nurse and one of the founders of Integrative Nurses Network. Working alongside prominent experts in the Bay Area and beyond, she has gained a versatile perspective, having worked with various medical disciplines. Committed to the medicine heart approach, she connects with her patients as she supports them through protocols from Eastern to Western approaches and everything in between. With a deep love for her patients, Christie is passionate about seeing that her patients receive the help they seek to achieve their goals. So welcome, Christie.
Thank you for that kind introduction, Jill.
100%. Well, I am so excited to have you. And this is a really neat topic that we're going to explore today. And we really want to know, is using IV therapies a wellness trend? Is it a medical necessity? You know, are these types of things important for immune building, energy, hormone balance, or is it just a fun novelty to take after you're hungover in Las Vegas? But I know that's not where you're treating, so no. I think we're all intrigued, including myself. So welcome.
Thank you. I am happy to answer that. Yes, it's yes and no. It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's certainly more trendy. I'm sure everyone, probably in every state in the U.S. and abroad now, has some sort of an IV drip center because it's becoming so much more popular and trendy. And yes, it can be fantastic for a hangover if you need it for that. That's not the area that we are really involved in. I don't think we've ever had someone come to us actually for a hangover. Thank goodness.
I know you're a serious healthcare practitioner.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You're an integrative nurse, so this is not a whimsical thing I know you're dealing with very serious patients, and
yes.
So can
Absolutely.
you tell us really what IV therapy is in a nutshell? And then we can definitely go into deeper topics like that.
Like really simply put, it is administering nutrients intravenously instead of orally. And there are many reasons why you would want to do that over just taking supplements or eating a well-balanced diet, which is what we promote at our clinic at the Integrative Nurses Network. We are all about getting to the root cause of the problem and helping facilitate that in whatever we can. And so, we do that. I will answer your question, but just to fill in a little bit of the gaps there.
Please do.
I started seeing that there were gaps in medicine, and there were gaps in between various clinics and providers and their practices, and there wasn't a lot of communication and cohesion and networking, and a patient would come to us, oh, you guys are nurses, and nurses are the most trusted industry, actually, the most trusted profession. And
that's amazing, actually. I wouldn't know that.
Yeah. And it happens to be International Nurse Week right now, actually. So yay, let's celebrate all the nurses out there.
100%.
Yeah.
Cheers to the nurses.
And so a lot of people come and trust nurses, and a lot of people have like white coat syndrome, right? They don't feel so trusting of various doctors. And anyhow, a lot of people, and I'm sure every nurse out there that's listening can relate to this, everyone in their community is coming to them for all sorts of different ailments and questions because they just trust them. And often nurses are a lot better at listening and holding space. And that's really what we do. So I noticed that there was this gap in medicine, even in natural medicine, where folks weren't getting the support that they needed, and that they weren't really getting empowered with knowledge on how to heal themselves and take care of themselves. It was mostly just, blind faith and trust in their provider, to, help them with their ailments, to relieve their symptoms. And so that was one of the reasons why we started INN and the Integrative Nurses Network, was because we wanted to support folks, really work to empower them and fill in the gaps between providers. And so we do that by collaborating with a lot of different providers so that we're filling the gaps. We have a patient who will come to us from one provider and say, oh my gosh, he did all of these things and it didn't work. And we maybe just the day before had someone coming from another provider who was dealing with the exact same thing very successfully. And so we're in this beautiful position where we get to share all of that and just empower everyone with that knowledge. And so that brings me back to your question, which is, what are the benefits of the IV nutrients? And that is not our focus, because we do like to work with the root cause and supporting the patients the best we can. And at times that involves IV nutrients, and it works fantastic at bypassing your gut, really. I mean, that's a big problem for a lot of people. Like probably a majority of us have some sort of inflammation or leaky gut, especially post-COVID. And so if you have, a condition where, especially something acute, where you just need maximum nutrient absorption to get you over that edge, IV nutrients can often be the way to do it, whether it's through amino acids, minerals, B vitamins, even, very high dose vitamin C to help kick a virus, things like that. Please stop me if I'm rambling.
No, this is great. And I just wanted to circle back really quick before we do talk really in depth about the IV stuff, is because what you mentioned, which is where I resonate, is being taking a whole person's approach.
Totally.
So when you're speaking about having two different patients with similar conditions and they were receiving similar treatments, but they responded differently. So you're almost like an investigator to try to problem solve, why is patient A not receiving the same benefit as patient B with maybe a traditional allopathic protocol.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at a whole person, which takes so much more time and resources and attention to really look at what's going on with that whole person.
Yes, I often feel like a detective.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And we're, networking is in the name because we're often referring out to different providers who do what they do very, very well. For example, I noticed that you had Corolla Cuenca on your show.
Yeah.
She's fantastic at what she does. She has helped to support some of our patients in a real way. And we're so very blessed to be in Santa Cruz, where it's like a mecca for healers and integrative healthcare practitioners, and folks with really great skill. And so that's really fun too. And a lot of our patients have been many of them permanently injured by allopathic medicine. And when I say allopathic, I mean the conventional Western medical model. A lot of it is irreparable. Some of the side effects from pharmaceutical medications are permanent. Surgeries, radiation, all sorts of interventions. And so then they are kind of lost in this place, and they come to us, and we do our best to support them and get them the help they need. And that's through, our detective work, our medical research, which I just love to do, and also through our networking within our community. I'm constantly reaching out to some of my favorite practitioners saying, hey, what do you think about this case, and let's collaborate on this. And also, cutting edge stuff. We're always evolving, taking different courses and going to different conventions and webinars and you name it, to continue to educate ourselves, because medicine is just expanding and growing at like crazy speed. New technologies all the time around the corner, and so we're trying to implement as much as we can safely.
I like that. And it is true, there are medical, I think it's like the third leading cause of
Yeah.
death.
It's just going to an allopathic doctor.
Yeah, but it could be dodgy. But we don't want to diss anybody out there who does that. But that's why we have a multifaceted discipline here with integrative medicine. As a nutritionist, we're using maybe different techniques that other allopathically trained folks, conventional, traditional methods aren't using.
Yeah.
Now, when you have a patient who comes to you with a mysterious condition, where do you start? You have do you go first to the IV protocol?
Yeah, no.
Is that something that, because I was really interested in you talking about that it bypasses the gut.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that is so fascinating. And of course it does. If you're taking a supplement, which are often things that I would recommend, it does have to pass through the digestive system.
Yes.
Right? And so that's often not going to happen with people who have what Christie mentioned is called leaky gut.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do have that. And what that means is that people have perforations in their intestinal lining. Mm-hmm. Doesn't sound good, but a lot of people have that. And that means that a lot of undigested nutrients are passing through into the bloodstream. And that in itself is causing a mayhem and a myriad of problems.
Absolutely.
And so the IV goes right into the bloodstream. So for people who need acute, quick remedies, this could be like a brilliant method to use.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you share what some of your patients, what they would come in to see you with?
Yes.
Who want that IV?
Just to touch on what you had said earlier about the allopathic medicine, yes, I'm not here to diss any approach either.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that up because there's absolutely a time and a place and a need for that.
100%.
And it just so happens that there is risk associated with, as there is with most things. It just also so happens that with natural medicine, the risk is a lot milder.
Okay.
You know, there's very rarely any side effects, and it's nothing like what we see coming from even just taking something like an Ativan or, you know, something like that.
Sure.
And yeah, so if someone's coming to us, I'll give you an example. We had a gentleman who was recommended from a friend within the community, and he had been basically chronically vomiting for months, months and months and months, almost years. I mean, on and off with like wild GI distress. And he had been to so many providers, and mostly just in and out of the hospital. We see that a lot too. And so folks will find us because they're like, gosh, I'm just so dehydrated. I've had, diarrhea and vomiting for so long. And they'll come to us just for hydration. And we're like, oh, okay, now you're in our grasps. Let's see how we can really help you. So sometimes, we will offer them the infusion that they're seeking. And our favorite way to work with any patient is in a collaborative approach. So optimally, they have their integrated provider that says, hey, you could really use this infusion. Go see these nurses over here. And then we get to collaborate with them and work as a team to support that patient even more fully. If that doesn't happen, then we have providers that we can reach out to and say, hey, this person needs a consult, based on your medical assessment, can they receive the treatment that we're offering? And that's how we see patients. And so this patient did that. We gave him quite a lot of amino acids. We discovered that, he's really in need of that ultimately. And, just off of that alone and suggesting some digestive enzymes and, a little bit of ozone gel capsules, Ozovita, to help repair the imbalance in his gut. And I mean, he hasn't vomited since. And this has been months and months now. I mean, he comes in for that regular, but we also have him on a diet and a protocol. And it's just given him his life back. And he's just like, he tells us all the time, why did it take me so long to find you nurses?
Right? That is quite fascinating. So digestive enzymes, our pancreas usually makes those, but you can get them in supplement form, of course.
True. Yes.
Right? And then, Christie, tell us about the amino acids. I'm a huge fan of using that as a therapy.
Oh, yeah.
As a nutritionist, doing IVs are out of my scope of practice.
Right.
But I definitely love amino acids for immune building, repair, mental health issues, hormone balance, all that kind of stuff. Can you tell me what do you like about that?
Yeah,
amino acids?
Amino acids, they're the building block to proteins, and proteins are everything. And so the way that we work with them in intravenous use is like we were talking about before, when there is inflammation in the gut, and we want 100% absorption, when you take a supplement, or even when you're eating something that you're hoping to absorb the nutrients from that food, you're getting, sometimes, especially when you have any sort of inflammatory gut issue, a very small, very, very small absorption, percentage of absorption. The number varies, but anywhere from like 2 to maybe 20% absorption out of a supplement, your average supplement. So like you said, it's 100% absorption when it goes directly in the vein. And so if you can imagine consuming a myriad of, like a rainbow of nutrients, magnesium and, trace minerals and B vitamins and amino acids that are like, all of a sudden your cells are just like dancing. They're celebrating, like, yes, we have what we need to do the work we need to do. And that can give your body the edge over combating whatever your ailment is. I mean, you name it, whatever cluster of symptoms they've now labeled, a diagnosis over. If you're seriously deficient and you just can't get there on your own, when we administer it, these things through your vein, we get you there. And then we can start working on unwinding, all of the other things that are accompanying that diagnosis.
Exactly. So you're getting to the foundation of the problem. A lot of people want to fix the symptom. Mm-hmm. So if they have a headache, they want to take an aspirin. If they have some pain, same thing. Whatever it is, they're going to want to just get rid of whatever that uncomfortable feeling is, instead of looking at what the primary cause is. So maybe this person didn't have enough enzymes in his system to digest, right? So probably he was taking some, right? So.
Yeah. And what I'm seeing a lot of now is, there's diet trends, right? Keto is a big one that a lot of people are utilized. And what I'm noticing too is a lot of people need assistance in digesting all of this extra fat that they're consuming, right? That's a big part of it.
Right.
Lipase is a great enzyme that helps to break down fat.
I love that.
And so all of a sudden you're asking so much of your gallbladder and your liver, and like, hey, let's process, I'm completely cutting out carbohydrates, let's make that shift, and that's just one enzyme. There are so many others. Our body
keto thing could be such a disaster for people, right? And breaking down the proteins it takes a lot of energy.
It can be hard. I think when you're going to make a dramatic shift like that, working with someone like yourself or any kind of nutritionist health expert is great, because you don't know the potential repercussions.
We just had a visitor, that's why Christie and I are giggling.
Distracted. Sorry about that.
So much funnier. It's like it's my new favorite job, honestly.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I love it.
This is great. It's cozy.
It's cozy, and for people who are listening from anywhere, we are streaming live from SantaCruzVoice.com. And we are in Santa Cruz, California, and it's quite gorgeous out today.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful, beautiful day. And it's been a pleasure for me to be a podcast host, because I get to interview all these amazing people like Christie Hernandez. And so Christie and I are talking about alternative healthcare, and really it's integrative and it's comprehensive and it's natural, and we're getting to the root cause of problems.
That's right.
Right. So we're talking about a fellow who had digestive issues, and Christie put him on some really awesome amino acids and different things and supplements like digestive enzymes. And what do you know? The fellow is all healed. What other kind of conditions do you deal with aside from leaky gut and digestive stuff? What about for women? Stress?
All sorts of things.
Yeah. Right?
All sorts of things.
Can we talk a little bit about stress?
Sure. Yes. I'm an expert in that.
Okay.
In self-induced stress.
Right? Who can relate, please?
Yeah. The reason I brought up that fellow is because, the fact that we offer IV nutrients, it's what draws people in. And then, having an outcome like that, which we do often, where someone just feels like incredibly supported, and we're able to work, outside of just what their ask is, kind of within and around that. In fact, you had mentioned in your introduction the medicine heart approach that we practice.
Yes, and that's really interesting.
And so when we're talking about things like high anxiety or stress, and someone, finds us in whichever way they find us, and they come to us and they say, oh, I need a B12 shot, and then we start to, get to know them, and we meet them with our hearts opened. It's the medicine heart approach is something I learned from my mentor, Catherine Medicine Hart, and it was just so wonderful and beautiful to watch the way that she would hold space for patients. And so I thought, we really need to share that with the world, and that's what we've been doing with all of our nurses in our community is, basically reflecting back to folks that you have it all within you to heal yourself, and let me just hold space and see you to enable that to unfold and to happen. And so you might think you just need that B12 shot because it might give you the energy boost because your life is completely falling apart around you, and it turns out that you're addicted to stress or whatever else is going on. Meeting someone in that way just allows them to open up in a way that we're able to just receive more intel and then unpack it a bit and then support them in a much grander way if they allow us to.
Yeah, that makes sense. It almost seems like people have to relax and even be in a place to receive help and to even tune into what's going on with themselves.
Yeah, that's true. And that's one of the reasons why our location it's so cozy. You'll have to come and have tea with me there. It's so relaxing and peaceful. And
Christy moved to a new office, so I haven't been to visit yet. Christy and I are colleagues and friends.
Yes.
Outside of this world here.
Yeah, it's been...
So stress, I know I don't want to call you out on this, but you have a chill out IV?
Oh, sure, yes.
Because I did some research, and I was like, who doesn't need that? I think I'm going to get one every week. I don't know. What is it? Can you share, what's in that one?
So that is it's actually a high amount of magnesium. As you know, magnesium can really help to relax that wired nervous system of yours. And then it has particular amino acids that are specific to also helping to relax that nervous system, along with, a little bit of B vitamins and other things.
Okay, so those are some of the ingredients that the stressed person might not know. They might want, I want to get all pumped up on B12.
Yeah.
But really, they might be deficient in simple minerals.
Totally.
That are really easy to fix.
Yes, and in fact, we work with something at INN called the Root Cause Protocol that's developed by Morley Robbins, and it's a very, very specific, incredibly comprehensive protocol all about balancing your minerals, and that being the absolute foundation to health, to reducing oxidative stress, thus reducing inflammation of the body, thus reducing all of these symptoms that we have slapped labels on. And it's really quite remarkable, and it really does come down to that. It's so important that your minerals are in balance. And I don't know where all of your listeners are on this, but in the environment that we are in now, we are swimming in a pool of lots of exposure. They're actually dropping metals from the sky. And
I know. We definitely can talk about that. So the root cause protocol, I want to get into that, and I want to talk more about magnesium, minerals, oxidative stress. Mm-hmm. That's a big hot topic. But first, I'm going to challenge myself today and try to play a commercial for you folks.
Oh, goodness.
So I hope this is going to work. Please hold on tight. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Thank you, everybody. We will be right back.
Mr. Holmes, there's a gentleman here to see you.
Send him up, Mrs. Hudson.
Well, Holmes, why do you think he's here?
Obviously, Watson, because he has excruciating back pain and has tried almost everything. Observe his gait. He sprained his right ankle some time back, tripping over his house cat. Hence the subtle limp, the smell of liniment, and the pet hairs on his trousers. Simple. What he needs is to restore proper gait pattern with specific exercises that target his entire body.
So will you give him the exercises?
Don't be ridiculous, Watson. He needs to go to Rocky's Fitness Center. It's exactly what they specialize in. hunting down the clues to bring the body back on track. Elementary, really.
Rocky's Rehab Fitness and Conditioning. We are biomechanics, guiding your body to move well and pain-free since 1996. Contact us at rfcsantacruz.com for a complimentary consultation today.
Okay, folks, welcome back. I'm here in Santa Cruz, California, streaming on santacruzvoice.com. I have in the studio today with me a very special person. Her name is Christie Hernandez. She's a registered nurse and an integrative practitioner. All right, let's get into magnesium and reducing stress. This is one of the number one chronic issues that people are having in the United States right now, including children. Children, teens are experiencing stress, and it's really impacting their health. Adults are experiencing stress. Parents are experiencing stress. It seems like everybody is having stress, and it's not good for our health. It's one of the links to chronic illnesses. It's the gateway, you could say, to disease. So we all need to chill out. Now, if you can't get to Christie's studio right away and take this awesome magnesium amino acid complex, we can take other things in the world. You guys can call me for consultations over the phone or see me in person. But what can we do more, like about the oxidative stress? Can you talk about that? What that even means?
Well, I'm curious. What do you recommend for your folks who are
for stress?
Managing stress? Yeah.
Well, I make a lot of teas with calming nutrients. Holy basil is an herb that I really like to recommend. I also, in addition to the herbal therapies, chamomile, and there's a whole plethora of great calming herbs. I also love the amino acids. I love 5-HTP. I like GABA support. And reducing the oxidative damage with eating a whole foods diet.
Yeah, absolutely.
People need more nutrients, more colorful fruits and vegetables, more vitamin C. We're basically nutrient deficient in the United States. And it is like a treat to get this IV thing. I think that's probably why I called you in, is because it's a fascinating way for people to get healthy really quick, and people don't need to suffer.
Right.
So I do, in my practice, I do use supplements traditionally, orally or maybe subdermally or dermal topical, and herbs, drinking teas and things like that.
Yeah. And even for, I mean, you said it, like a lot of folks are deficient, and even folks like myself and, you know, my friends in my community who do all the right things. You know, we're only eating local, organic, sprouted, fair trade, you name it, you know, that's entering our body. The soil, often the soil that it's grown in is just depleted in minerals. You know, it's the same crops that have been grown year after year after year so much. And that's why it's so important to have biodynamic, of course, where you can get it. And what that means is that they're tending to the soil in a very different way. They're considering the ecosystem. Not all farmers do that, even organic farmers. So you'll see some of your, you know, the big brands in the supermarket, and all of a sudden they're carrying organic, you know, strawberries or what have you now. It's like, they're farming practices that you haven't trusted for so long, and all of a sudden now they're organic. Would you still trust their, you know, it's you know, organic is trendy, but it's really about knowing where your food is grown, and are they really tending to the soil and replenishing the minerals? More often than not, the answer is no. And so even if you have a spectacular diet, you need to tend to balancing your minerals. You kind of, like, I feel like just about everyone should be supplementing with magnesium, of course according to their practitioners, you know, recommendations. But
an opposite of magnesium is calcium. And so what are some other minerals, like
and so your minerals
selenium, zinc,
yeah,
right? Because they have cofactors. Totally,
absolutely. And they want to be bioavailable. I mean, everything wants to be in a system where it's all bioavailable and it's used. And so if you're deficient in certain nutrients, for example, retinol, pure vitamin A, if you don't have adequate levels of retinol in your diet, because let's say
carrots and yams, carrots and yams, cantaloupe,
well, and dairy too,
and dairy,
you know,
that's true.
or cod liver, it's delicious and it's so packed full, What I learned in actually studying the root cause protocol is that anywhere in nature where you find a source of vitamin A, you find vitamin D with, and often higher amounts of retinol than there is D. And we're not talking about synthetic hormone D that is like the, vitamin D supplement that folks are taking like way over, neglecting the receptor sites that are also binding to vitamin A. Right, so you're saturating them with this pill that you're taking of vitamin D constantly, and then maybe you're not eating dairy, and maybe you're not eating carrots and yams, and so where are you getting that retinol? And you have to have retinol in your system, just for example, to utilize the copper inside of your mitochondria.
Right, and also people need fat too to absorb those. Those are fat-soluble vitamins.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And
so all of these things play into, it's not as simple as people think.
Right, maybe. And if you can imagine a spider web, and it's all of your minerals, right? And so when you have one that's directly opposite, like you were saying, calcium and magnesium, let's say, and it kicks off the other one, well, that's going to set off a chain reaction over here, which is then going to bump the other web, et cetera, et cetera. And so you just have an imbalance. What you want is homeostasis. You want just the right amount of key nutrients and supportive trace minerals to balance your minerals. And right now with, all the heavy metals in our environment, I mean, we test people for heavy metals all the time, whether it's to their hair or their urine or what have you. And there is very rarely somebody that isn't toxic in some kind of metal.
What kind of metals are you testing? That are off the charts that you're speaking of?
We see a lot of high mercury, lead, I'd say cadmium, aluminum. Well, what's amazing is that if you are balanced in your minerals, they're not going to let the heavy metals in, right?
That is amazing. Did people hear that? Can you say that one more time? Because there's cell receptor sites, so things land on your cell receptor sites, and if heavy metals are landing there, then the nutrients can't. But if you have good
mineral balance, if you have a good diet and you're taking the right nutrients that you need to supplement, I'm mostly a non-interventionist actually. If you can heal it through your own diet and lifestyle shifts and, meditation practices or what have you, let's focus on that. And sometimes where you need it, you've got to supplement. And sometimes even more so, we've got to, do some IV nutrients. And right now what I'm seeing is even children, like you're saying, are so stressed out that they've got to be on a herbal remedy to calm their nervous system. And I wonder, I've gone down the rabbit hole quite a bit on all of the research, especially out of Europe and various countries on EMFs and especially 5G. And there is no doubt that all of the devices that are in our hands and Bluetooth in our car and Wi-Fi in our home and all of it, that is absolutely impacting our inability to chill out. Children are strung out, having anxiety and can't calm their nervous system, and their cortisol levels are crazy high. And, so it's really about not just detoxing our bodies from all of these toxins and heavy metals, but it's detoxing our lifestyle, and stop rushing and putting so much on our plate. And I am an expert at this.
Really? Do tell.
I mean, I know what it's like to pack way too many things on your plate and try to get way too much done and just be really stressed out, and I say that because I can relate to so many. It's so much easier said than done.
Yeah. So even as practitioners, as yourself, you still experience a common stress.
Yeah. And so the more we can reduce things on our list and competing for, being the greatest at whatever, or taking the most pictures for Instagram or whatever it is that we're prioritizing, sometimes it's that's a really important piece too. How am I feeling? Well, how am I feeling about myself? How am I perceiving my illness? What is my, where's my accountability at with, like how I'm feeling. Like I do this myself where, I can't really complain about being exhausted when I know that, I didn't go to bed until 2:00 last night because I was doing all this research on this particular thing for this one patient,
Right.
entirely my doing. It's just one example of like, if your lifestyle is such that it's not allowing you to heal and rest. We know that. Our grandmas taught us that, and their grandmas taught us that. And what you need to heal from so much ailments is just rest. Maybe some bone broth soup.
And that's it, folks. Rest and bone broth soup. No, we're not wrapping it up right there. That's kind of a joke. But the message is that we do all have to get off that conveyor belt of do.
Yeah.
And then we're sick, and then we wonder why. Yeah. And it is a sacred act to take a day off, to take even a few hours off to yourself, to go to the beach, walk barefoot on the ground.
Connect with your loved ones, connect with yourself, connect with the earth. That's what we're all lacking.
Right. Connection, turning the Wi-Fi off. And that's hard to do. Can we all do it together? And it'll be easy.
Let's have an unplugged day. Every day of the week, we need just an unplug. All the Wi-Fi goes down. Cell phones are put in the drawer in the Faraday cages, and we just.
I know. I love you're hitting on all these topics because you did bring up chemtrails, and for a lot of people, that is a big conspiracy topic, but it is in the news, and it's real. And a lot of these things are real.
Yeah.
And that's what Christie and I like to talk about. And it is a serious thing because people are really struggling, including. Cancer rates are off the charts too, right? We do have a lot of things.
Every new great discovery was a conspiracy until enough of the mass population saw that it was actually true.
Right.
And there's no denying the fact that geoengineering is happening in the sky.
Yeah, that's happening, and the depletion of our soils. And it does sound a little depressing, honestly. And what I like to do is, my phrase is create the world you want to live in. Right. So we all have to take, at this beautiful time on our planet, personal action. Mm-hmm. So I like to take a day off myself once where I don't really do work. I just hang out in the garden.
Don't get in the car.
Don't get in the car. Yeah. Now, there's another really fascinating therapy that you do use, and this might have to do with the oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is when we have too many free radicals in our system floating around, and that's what's causing cellular damage, right? Oxidate, it's like a piece of fruit that turns brown. Mm-hmm. And that happens all the time in our systems, just breathing, exercising. So we always need to replenish our systems with the minerals and the vitamins and all the nutrients. Now, I had a hand injury, and I did see you once for that, and we used ozone.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I was like, what are we doing here? Is this a thing? And it is.
It is. It's a thing.
Right? And so this is a technique that's infusing your cells with oxygen, because if you have oxygen, you can't have... What's happening? Do you want to do a little mini dive into that?
Sure, yeah. So, let's see.
It's called ozone IV therapies and ozone insulfations.
Insufflations, yeah.
Insufflations.
Yeah.
It sounds like something I would like to eat, some inflations.
You don't want to eat
No,
ozone.
You don't want to eat that.
You can drink ozone, though. And in fact, whenever I've got a stomach bug or someone else, I offer them, I'll make you a glass of ozone at the clinic, ozonated water. It's fantastic. I mean, you put some ozone up your rectum as a ozone insufflation, and then you drink it as ozonated water, and bye-bye bug.
Are people flipping out? Okay, slow that down. Walk us through that, Christie, please.
Okay, sure. So ozone is the O3 molecule. And I'll just preface this by saying that, in the U.S., we are so slow to catch on to a lot of health technology, health trends, and what have you. I won't go down that path to pharma and all of that and the reasons why, but if you'd like to talk about that at a later time, I'd be super happy to discuss. But
after I've done like 100 shows, we can get into some more of those topics.
Okay, sounds good. I was just actually reading a note from a colleague, and he was celebrating the fact that one of the major universities in Rome now has a master's program in ozone therapies. And most of the research that we have on ozone is from Europe and outside of the United States. It's like the vast majority of it, and it's such an incredibly therapeutic, safe tool to use for so many different ailments. And they're using it in hospitals, reducing the hospital stays like across the board, reducing the rate of infection, and I'll get into why. So the O3 molecule is, if you can imagine O2 and O bind, and it's highly unstable, right? It wants to quickly dissociate and break off back into O2 and O. And so when that enters into your tissue, let's say that you have, I don't know, an ulcer on your foot, and you're diabetic and you're having a difficulty healing it because you have inadequate circulation, you have all the sugar floating around and all the reasons why that happens. If we were to put your foot into a bag of ozone, it's called an ozone limb bagging, or like an insufflation. Basically, we're blowing up a balloon around your foot and just filling it with ozone, pure ozone gas. And there's various different concentrations that you can do that. But what that's going to do is not only interact with the cell wall of the bacteria that's inhibiting your heel or whatever part of your foot that's not able to heal. So it will interact with the cell wall of the bacteria. It will, not cell wall, but it will annihilate the bacteria. Most bacteria, especially the kinds of bacteria that cause a lot of, necrotic type infections in our body, don't love oxygen-rich environments, right? So it's going to quickly dissociate, bind to the bacteria, and kill it. Then it's going to set off this cascade of healing effects. And even though ozone is an oxidative therapy, it actually works as an antioxidant. It sets off this cascade of antioxidant activity in your blood. And that's why we find incredible anti-inflammatory effects with ozone. It's fantastic for even things like autoimmune cancer, you name it. These are not claims I'm making about any sort of treatment.
Understood.
This is just what I've seen in working with a lot of different practitioners from all over the world, and even somewhat in our clinic. It's incredible the kind of results that you can have with ozone. You can put it in the vagina, for example. If you had some sort of an infection that, common infection that women have, we can administer it in the nose, in the ears, just about anywhere in your body that you can imagine.
Wow.
A lot of folks are injecting it, using things like prolozone, to repair inflammation in joints and help to invite the body to rebuild tissue, right?
So this helps with maybe arthritis?
Absolutely, yeah. Or, a damaged tendon, or you name it.
So acute injuries?
Acute injuries, yeah. Chronic things.
Chronic things, too?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing stuff. The first time I did what's called major autohemotherapy, which is, or it's commonly known as the 10-pass method, which is something that we offer at the clinic as well. I didn't really quite think about it, but I went for my daily run, and I ran twice as far as I normally do, and I wasn't fatigued at all. And it wasn't until after that, I was talking to a friend, and I realized, oh my goodness, it was the 10-pass I received the day before. And that's why so many professional athletes receive ozone IV before a big game, because they can run. It increases the utilization of oxygen in your body, in your muscles. So there's that less lactic acid. You have so much more endurance. It's really remarkable.
That is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there a natural way to get this into our systems without having to do a treatment, quote unquote? Or is it just running and getting oxygen into your body and making sure you have good blood flow?
Yeah.
Would that be the natural way that people are getting this healing? What would be the body's natural? So you're saying with if you're having diabetes and someone's having a wound, the oxygen is not flowing in the bloodstream to get to the wound.
Yeah. So there's things like hyperbaric chambers, for example, and those are really trendy now too. A lot more and more folks are even getting soft chambers for their homes.
Is that the cold? The hyperbaric?
The hyperbaric is a really high volume oxygen environment.
Oh,
It's
okay.
these that you zip up and you climb into, and you're like laying there and you're in this like big oxygen
Okay, I've
bed,
seen that.
essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's very effective too. This is different in that it's a different molecule, and it's more concentrated.
Okay.
And we're administering it directly into the blood in that particular case. But just sticking your hand in, when there's an infection that's just not quite healing, it can be really, really powerful for that.
Yeah, and super low impact, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's not invasive.
Right. And so
No needles are involved.
Right. And so when we look at things like the risk benefit of these offerings that we have, versus, let's say, for example, you have sepsis, right? And so that's like a situation where there's an infection in your blood, it came from, let's say, your ulcer in your foot, and they're trying to prevent it from circulating around your body. And so, I've worked with colleagues, multiple, who, had a patient come to them and they were going to amputate their foot. And all they did was stick their foot in a bag of ozone, right? So let's just say it did progress, and that patient did become septic. And so then they would want them to be in the hospital on several different like bombs of antibiotics, right? That would just annihilate their immune system for the rest of their life. They would be trying to make recoveries from taking that amount of antibiotics. Well, if you were to instead go to your next, practitioner who offered IV nutrients and or ozone therapy, really high dose vitamin C, for example, or ascorbic acid, can annihilate sepsis. There are studies that have shown, folks who were treated with conventional therapies versus those who were treated with just like small amounts, and we're talking like 6 grams IV, had much better outcomes, like dramatically improved outcomes. And they are using vitamin C in different places. Even in China, they were using vitamin C in some hospitals for COVID. And they had, no one died in that vitamin C group. They had much less side effects. They had much shorter hospital stays, whereas that was not the case for the rest of the, 500 plus people that did not receive the vitamin C. But ozone, ozone is fantastic for infections. If somebody received a 10 pass, if I was septic, that would be my choice.
Right. This is great information. Because I think people get really, like you said, fearful when they have an illness. They don't necessarily want to go to deal with the white coat situation.
Yeah.
They might try to self-medicate.
Yes.
But it's really brilliant that nature provides all these things. And then through our technologies, we can put the two together.
Yeah.
And we can figure out how to really heal from the root cause, as opposed to just masking the symptoms and hoping for the best.
Right. And I'm not saying that it's entirely responsible to just take copious amounts of ascorbic acid and say, okay, I'm going to be fine. I don't need to take a deeper look into this at all. There's a collaborative approach there. Sometimes you need antibiotics.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that
please seek medical advice.
not from us
Right.
on this podcast. But what I'm saying is that
we're just passing on information.
There are other approaches, and to be able to spread the word, folks don't have to be so scared, and they don't have to just run to the hospital every time they're sick. They can take a look at some of these other options that have just much gentler, if any, side effects. And not to say that ozone doesn't have side effects, but what I'm saying is that you want to know what's out there. That's why we started INN. INN started as an empowerment circle for nurses, because we just wanted to educate all of the nurses in Santa Cruz, because if everyone knew really deeply how these sorts of treatments worked, then they could then offer those, just tiny little planting seeds to other people that, hey, there are other options out there. We don't just have to run and pop the greatest steroid to take care of my joint pain, which is going to further degrade your joints and make it much worse issue. Let's actually get underneath that and help build you up, rather than throw bombs on you to burn you down, right? Like our modern approach with cancer. There are other ways, and there are so many incredible practitioners in this town, especially all around, but that work with the body, such as yourself. let's build the body up with nutrients, and your body is so intelligent and it has everything it needs to heal itself. Even in this toxic environment, we can do that. Our bodies are incredible, and we just need the support often, right? The connection, and to get underneath it and provide it what it needs.
And our bodies always are seeking balance. They always want to heal, and it will do its job if we give it what it needs. Even our mental state. Even thinking good thoughts actually is a really great way towards healing. In fact, that is the first place to start. I love your enthusiasm and your passion.
Thank you,
Christie. So where can people find you? Can you drop a website or a phone number people can contact you at?
Sure, yeah. They can check us out at inn-health.com.
Okay, so that's Integrative Nurses Network.
Yeah, we just shorten it.
I love it.
Long.
Easy.
INN. And then 831-854-7599. You can give us a call and chat with them. We have complimentary 15-minute consults with nurses if you have questions about, what should I do here? And, often the answer is not come in and see us. It might just be like, hey, you're going to be better off going to see this guy or whatever. But that's my passion, is like getting you the resources that you need when you're
collaborating.
Ill. Yeah, when
right.
you're ill and you're vulnerable and you're scared and you're sick and you're not, not feeling good and all the things. You don't want to be searching around, and you want somebody that has a little bit of experience in the realm and can point you in the right direction. So
all right.
That's what we love to do.
This is so brilliant. Well, I want to thank you, Christie Hernandez.
Thank you. And hey,
INN.
I know Mother's Day is coming up.
Yes.
I know we're both mamas, and we're running a special 30% off all of next week, any treatment you want at the clinic. So come on in and see us.
All right, let's get those phones ringing to Christie's office, inn.com. And I'm so thrilled. Also, I would like to just say I'm Jill Troderman again. You can check me out at SantaCruzHolisticNutrition.com.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill.
You are welcome. We'll do this again for sure. I think we have a lot more to talk about.
Great.
And I do have a class coming up, Plant Propagation. That's going to be May 31st on a beautiful piece of property here in Santa Cruz, California. So please look at my website and sign up for that. And that's it, folks. We'll see you next week. I have a great guest. Her name is Mary Sheila. Take care now. Woohoo!